One of the recurring themes in news media about real estate affordability is the claim that today's young buyers have it a lot harder than their parents did when they were buying their first home, perhaps a quarter of a century ago. But like so many things espoused in mainstream media about residential property, it really isn't true, not when you look fully at all the factors in play and crunch some of the numbers. There's been some recent research which used data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the Reserve Bank of Australia, which found that millennials actually have it easier than did baby boomers when it comes to the portion of the weekly income spent on the monthly mortgage. And as one of those baby boomers buying property back in the late 1980s, I can testify to how hard it was, primarily because interest rates were so incredibly high back then, and there were also considerably fewer loan options. And that really is the crucial difference. Here's what the numbers say comparing the present day situation with the typical scenario faced by baby boomers buying a home in 1990. The median dwelling value back then was around $107,000 compared to $700,000 today. So that's quite a difference. And a 20% deposit was about $21,000 back then compared to $140,000 today. And on that basis, it took about 5 years to save that deposit based on 15% of average weekly earnings in 1990. And today, the same scenario would take 10 years to save that deposit, which is twice as long. So far, it looks as if it's much harder today than it was a quarter of a century ago. But the big difference is with interest rates. In 1990, you typically had a mortgage interest rate of 17%. Yes, 17%. Now I can remember as a homeowner paying 17% on my mortgage. Today, even with the 10 consecutive monthly interest rate rises recently, you're likely to be paying around 5.5% as an interest rate on a mortgage. In 1990, a typical mortgage cost $280 per week compared to $730 a week now. And based on full-time adult average weekly earnings, that was 53% of income spent on the mortgage back in 1990 versus 40% now. So according to these numbers, the typical baby boomer for the mortgage was having to allocate more than half their income to the loan repayments compared to 40% of income now. So on that basis, millennials have it easier than their parents did back then. Where today's young buyers have it harder is the time it takes to save a 20% deposit based on these numbers. But that's when the comparison is flawed, I think, because today you don't need a 20% deposit or anything like it to get into the market. One of the things in favour of today's buyers compared to 1990 is that you can get into the market with much less than a 20% deposit, and there are so many more borrowing options because there are so many different lenders in the market. There's also a high level of government assistance available today. So in many ways, getting a loan is easier today, but let me say very clearly, I'm not suggesting it is easy, but I am suggesting, however, that it's not impossible, as mainstream media implies constantly.